Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you in another video. All right. So I was just sitting here laughing. Fat Joe was getting it in at the Chiefs game, doing his performance, laughing and dancing and getting that bread. He said it was below 20 degrees out there. I was cracking up. The man was jumping around trying to keep the energy. Everybody was standing still, man. Wasn't nobody moving. I'm like, man, get your bag, Joey. That is a hell of a crowd, man. Everybody cold. That is not your demographic, bro. But you know what? I turned on the camera because I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that I know we've already talked about. Ain't nothing really new. But at the same time, it's like when I look back on some of the previous conversations we talked about from like a year ago, and in various conversations we were saying, what is Jay-Z's imprint going to be on the NFL, when everybody was getting on his case for sitting in the boardroom and kind of just more or less not giving as much credence to uh, the conversation at hand as people wanted him to. I don't know if he worded it wrong or what have you. I don't remember. But it was so much energy he was getting. And I was just saying to myself, yeah, he's just trying to keep the peace so that 2 or 3 years from now, we could see rappers all over the NFL games and stuff like that, and various artists that he's attached to be a part of Super Bowl performances. And we'll see more hip hop and more black influence as the NFL continues to uh, unfold its plan that Jay-Z's the mindset of, or rather the overseer of, or so to speak. So now that I'm seeing all this happening, Rihanna's doing the Super Bowl. We had, you know, the whole West situation go down last Super Bowl. Now we got Fat Joe in a championship game. I'm like, man, this is all jigger. Now we see, now you all see what he was trying to accomplish. And at the end of the day, the NFL had an image problem, man. As soon as they had that thing go down with Colin, we knew that they were going to have to do some things differently. So this is just their plan. We're seeing how it played out. But the thing about it is, we could have these very same performances and all of this could go well. But in order for it to happen, the position Jay had to take had to be one that made people look at him as if he didn't go all the way with the conversation, so to speak. However you worded, however you perceived it, at the end of the day, it was almost like he had to sell out in order to get all this done, or at least be perceived as if he sold out to get all this done. And it's just like, was it really necessary? Do we always have to be in these predicaments? Do we always have to compromise our most raw positions just to display what it is that we ultimately are very good at, even when it's in the best interest of the entity that's using that service? I mean, I don't understand. It's not like if he would have got up there and said, you know what, I don't like none of this, but I got some great plans for you, and we can have some artists up here that could turn your situation around. So why don't we just do business that way? It wasn't enough for that. He had to take a certain position, be seen taking that position with all the cameras around, so that the community can look at him and say, and then, and only then, could Rihanna and all this other stuff happen. Tired of the buck breaking is essentially what I'm saying to you. I'm tired of it. We see it. We know what it is. I know what it is. And if ain't nobody gonna say what it is, let me tell you what it is. It's that. It's the same thing we see with Kyrie Irving and Josiah and all that. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, dude. Why do I see the parallels? Because I know that it comes down to one and one thing only. It's the image. It's the image. Where's all this happening? It's in the environment of sports. What I like in athletes too is like thoroughbreds and horses. You understand what I'm saying to you? Because that's how they look at us. Blacks, cattle. We ripped the Band-Aid off. We've already had these conversations, so this is not new rhetoric. But the bottom line is this. And so I look at it that way. When you have that type of environment, certain elements are going to be around. It's just like chicken fighting and dog fighting and all types of other stuff like that. When you have that around, what's going to be around it? Certain elements of crime, certain elements of opportunists, those who are fiending over betting, things of that nature. Certain energies are going to surround certain things. And when you have that environment, this is what surrounds it. the energy of I must break them. It's a mental thing. It ain't enough to be efficient. Nah, it's a lot of ego that drives what takes place there. And there's ego. So as I look at it and perceive it, it's like, yeah, every time you got to get in the room with the folks, you got to get buck broke. It ain't enough to just have mutual interest. Nah, they gotta have the ego interest as well. They got the ego upper hand for some reason. And that's what I'm saying. It's like we pass forward different relays, as I like to call it, things that we did from traditions past that don't align with what we know to make sense today. That ego stuff is low frequency and ultimately inefficient in nature, but yet we still have strong traditions that we carry amongst us that uphold those. And a lot of people will fight to high hell to do so, but I don't think they will stop to say, well, maybe it was just, maybe this is an energy that works against us. Not necessarily plays into our enemy's hands, but just another form of something that we need to evolve through. Every time I look up, there's always some version of my wants hurt me. My wants, what I want, goes against me, or what is in my heart to want. That thing that lures me toward it. It's always something that's going to ultimately deteriorate in my life, one way or another. By way of what I want, of course, me into circumstances that compromise my morals or compromise my freedoms or what have you, or something that will compromise the situation I might have at home with my family because I'm lured towards some lustful want. These things always get in the way, and if most people don't know to discipline themselves from those wants, so the things that they do and the things that they teach, it's riddled in getting what they want, but they never stop to think that some of those wants work against them. Excellence. We talked about excellence earlier in regards to the Lakers. Knocking off everything that comes against you, various things that are inefficient, that work against you in some way, shape, or form. And looking at it as an opponent no different than what you're seeing on the court and has to be defended a certain way. If you start attacking all weaknesses that way, you start to realize that these things are in place as well. It's like, wait a minute, well, what is that there for? Nothing. Just to make somebody feel better about themselves because they're too weak in mindset to do otherwise different. And they pass that stuff to their kids, they pass that stuff to their kids, they pass that stuff to their kids, and nobody ever questions it. They just pass it and believe it, and it works until it doesn't. And they find themselves in circumstances where they can't compromise with others and can't find themselves in business situations where otherwise they have to change their mindsets in order to get into those situations. And they can't change their mindsets. Why? Because they've been married to traditions that allow them to think that they are never supposed to. And then they can have a hard time amending to the new world as it changes around them with different people that have come around to realize that they need to liberate themselves from stuff too for the same reason. It's called evolution, man. We can hold on to our flags and wave them, but we can't be so foolish as to think that some of the stuff that we are doing was any good for any of us. It wasn't good for our ancestors. They just didn't know any better. They didn't have the science. They didn't have the understanding. They didn't have the technology to assist them, the communication to help them understand certain things that allow myths to not be in place. We know better. We just need to surmise the idea that a lot of the stuff that we do wasn't riddled in the understanding of any better. And do better. And so that's what I've come to understand. I look around and I surmise what I see, and I'm like, yo, there's another version of that. We don't need to do that. And I realize people going around trying their hardest to silence people for different truths. And it's like, but do you realize that this also works against you in some way, shape, or form? Because look what you have to do in order to keep it silent. Wouldn't life be easier if this truth wasn't even a thing? If everyone's can be conditioned to understand whatever it is, literally whatever. I find that the more we find layers of truth, the more we come to understand that understanding is the way to go. No matter what the heck we're talking about. Patience, it always comes down to some patience or doing something that needs to be done or taking something that ultimately you don't want to make you feel better. It's always some variation of solution that may make it so that you have to sacrifice some want. You got to work out. You got to sacrifice your meals, something that tastes good. You can't. The taste buds are what lures you in, but you got to sacrifice what tastes so good because a lot of times what tastes so good, it's not going to help. So these are things that help you understand the metaphor that's in place for the rest of it. Those wants. That's what God gave us to taste, and it's like, okay, well, your body, if you're going to eat everything that tastes good, you're probably not going to be as healthy. So should you not apply that somewhere else? This parallel applies elsewhere. Okay, well, that person may be somebody I may be attracted to, but it's going to tear up my happy home. So I can't indulge in that. And then it layers up. Okay, well, we got certain other things we could do in our lifestyle. Well, I can go after that bag, but it ain't no good for me. I take it. I might have 2 years of balling, but 30 years of jail. That ain't good math. You know what I mean? It layers all the way up to your understanding of what a deity is and how much you should submit to it. All the way up. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to sacrifice your wants. And you realize all you can surmise is your own understanding. And you have to submit to something. If it's not a God, then it's the weight of the world coming against you. The unknown. And the understanding that something has to be in control of it. Because every storm calms eventually. Even if you think it's happenstance, it's still taking place. We're afforded an opportunity to wake up whatever morning we are, if we are. Are we not? Something affords us that truth. Now, some may be able to zero it in on a God or be able to surmise what it might be, but at the end of the day, we still got to wake up and build. So if a lot of what we're doing is going to work against us building, or if a lot of what we're on was put in place by people that did not know that building was needed or building was necessary, they were more so working on their own minds and their own some understandings of who they are and how important they need to be in the eyes of others. Low frequency nonsense that got them nowhere and kept their evolution slow. This is what we talk about all the time. That's why we seek balance. Just because we benefit from it doesn't necessarily mean it can't be compromised in some way or pointed at us, weaponized against us, or what have you. You can use it to weaponize against someone else as well. You benefit from it. It's attached to your wants. You go straight toward it, and it tears everything up. That's why I ask the Lord to help me be of better wants. I've said it 1,000,000 times. I don't know if it's working or not. I can't tell, to be honest with you. I only know what I see. But at the end of the day, I can speak that. To be of better wants. To not let your own wants, your own taste buds, coerce you into being unhealthy. Coerce you into being in an unhappy home. Or worse. I don't think it's easy. Nothing's easy. I can tell you from in the memories of an untrained mind. It was very difficult doing simple tasks like eating healthy and not doing things that made me unhealthy. When I was used to doing it, it was easy. And the path to where I am now was impossible. That's what I want everybody to understand. Even if I find myself impatient with you, if I'm working with you, asking you to try to work to get to a space where you don't need that bad food, does not mean that my impatience is accurate as it pertains to what it is that you need to be thinking about when you're trying to get on that journey to where you want to be. Because I had many, many days where I didn't believe in nothing. I didn't love myself and all kinds of stuff leading up to where I'm at to tell you these squeeze words. All kind of stuff. I was eating tubs of red vines, sitting down playing video games, hating my body. You understand what I'm saying? Still got a long way to go. And that means the messenger may not always be great, but the message may be necessary. So hold on to that. However credible I may be, it doesn't change the fact of what I'm saying is true. I'm in a much better spot. I can discipline myself from eating all that stuff now. I don't have to eat none of that. Even though the path to getting here may have forced me away from certain things. May have made it so that I ate so much of it I ain't want it no more. So if I walk up to you and say, stop eating all that, and you have a hard time not doing it, just remember what I'm telling you. I couldn't. People were telling me to do that too. I couldn't do it. Stop eating that. For what? I don't want to stop eating that. It's good. What you got is nasty. I don't want to eat that. But it's going to make you healthy. I am healthy. I wasn't healthy. I didn't know what I wasn't. What I didn't realize is that there was a whole left side of my body that didn't even have full range of motion. All I needed to do was work out my chest a little bit and I would have felt differently inside. My whole left side would have felt different. I didn't know this. I walk around my whole life, didn't know this. Deficient. None the wiser. I didn't know that how my stomach would form if I was to actually get in shape. I understood of a six pack, but I didn't know what it represented until I actually got one, and I realized when I squat, the represented weight needs to land on my stomach as I move down, so it holds the weight itself on the stomach, and it would form a certain way. I didn't know this, but I did have a lot of confidence that I could beat people up if they tried me. You understand what I'm saying to you? And no understanding, just confidence or insecurity. As much pain as I went through, pain, literal pain, climbing upstairs and things like that when I was heavy, not knowing that all I had to do was put myself through a little pain, initiate my own pain by working out a little bit, and I could have made myself strong enough to never let that pain ever happen. I didn't know that. Because, see, nobody actually explained that to me. All they did was force me to dress up for PE. And so you dress up for PE, and you go out there and you sweat. And you display how uncomfortable you feel, and that's it. Because that's what it was for me. I'm like, okay, I don't like my body. I don't like how I look. I don't like none of this. I don't want to run. It's going to hurt. I didn't know to stretch. I didn't know how to make myself strong enough to do so, or that I could eat well. And it only would take a little bit of discipline. What's discipline? But see, the crazy thing was I had disciplined myself very well in the video games. Because when it came down to playing Street Fighter, I had beat the game with everybody. So I knew how to discipline myself that way. I knew all the codes and everything. I still remember some of them codes. Down or up, LYB. Can't tell me nothing about no discipline. I mastered things that I had no business mastering because I was coerced into things by way of culture. And you know what I learned? That I could have taken and applied those same things, those techniques that I'd mastered there, and mastered some of anything in the world. Anything. The way my brain works, I'm learning. But it's fine that I took that path because now I can relate to how that went. So I don't, as I look and see excellence, it's like there's no hate in the path that I went on because it gave me the perspective that I'm in. It gave me the position I'm in. So we don't look back and say, oh, that sucks, man. Let's take steps backwards because look how bad the path was. Nah, heck no. That path allowed me to be as strong as I am. It gave me the specific experiences and the specific scars that maybe no one else can relate to. It makes me a one-on-one. So I'm good with that. Gotta be. That's the point. We all gotta be good with the path that's behind us. And the sick thing about it is a lot of us want to get past some of our problems, some of the things that we did wrong so that we can move on and display the good that's actually in our hearts or the progression that we believe is possible. But your truth, nope. You cannot tell your truth. You can't get past it. Why? Because the world has norms where your truth is not acceptable, and they will throw you in jail. They will throw you in jail for trying to teach others about what it is that you did wrong. Because we ain't past our minds in spaces where you crossed the line. And that is going to take a long time for the world to get to a space where we're ready to speak on that. But it's the truth. And the truth will set you free in many forms. But the problem is sometimes the truth can't be free based on people's perspectives, based on people's lashing out, triggerings, and all that. And that in place is trauma and healing culture in place to keep us from learning and forgiving and healing. And what I'm telling you is somewhere nestled in all of that is preventative measures. Somewhere nestled in all of that is that good old phrase, it takes one to catch one. Somewhere nestled all of that is the inspiration to believe in certain impossible overcomings that are real but are not perceived. And so I think a lot of people who may be rehabilitated or may be capable of being rehabilitated are thrown into situations where they're only surrounded by demonic energies, sources that can't help them get there, but for the infiltration of God-like energies that can get in there somehow. Who knows how? I don't imagine I know. Sometimes by the guilty, sometimes by the way of the system just failing us and sending good people to live in those squalling situations, which is why I think we need to feed the prisoners better. Not because I think those people who did wrong deserve so much, but it's because I know there's a couple people in there who don't deserve that, and we're never gonna find out. They're just living lives in there all messed up in bad conditions just by the way of the system accidentally making a mistake, maybe, or worse. Can we fathom them? And can we think of the humanity in that regard? Since we know so many make so much from it. But I digress. I do believe there's a couple people in there who may be listening to my voice who this fit the bill of, but the society we're in, there's no way for them to express how much they've changed and how much they can maybe heal someone else or prevent someone else from doing something. I ain't saying letting people out. I don't know. I ain't got the answer to that. I just remember Silence of the Lambs is all. Movies like that taught me different things that helped me remember that such things could be fathomable at the very least. That if not one or two applicable cases of this could exist. I don't know. I just let my mind ramble. But at the end of the day, I know there's a lot of folks out there in the shadows. I can't shake that when I pray. In the shadows, who need to stop doing whatever they do, but they ain't gonna stop because the culture, the world they're in, would stone them for their confessions. And I think sometimes the confession is the most necessary thing to stop somebody, to help them understand that, yo, this ain't what I want to be. They got to hear themselves say it, sometimes to other people. It's a scary world we're in, man. It's a lot of people in the shadows. And what I understand is there's no healing for a lot of that stuff. Not in the culture we're in. There's no healing. And I wonder, even though a lot of us are damaged and hurt by the realities of these circumstances, I wonder if the culture in place is in place for a reason, to keep this healing from taking place so this evil can keep on scurrying about. When I look at people coming into different places, as we talk about all the time, doing evil things, I always think that there's something to that, as I say many times. And this is part of that as well when I see mass shootings or different sad situations such as those. I wonder if there's a middleman in places. I always talk about some entity in place that would just like that to be the case and is smart enough to keep it going. And if there's such, should not that be fathomable? Should somebody out here be thinking about that? Looking for it, maybe? Finding patterns that it may be working in, details that it may be hiding, nestled in. I see a lot, man. I see a lot because they're trying to project a lot on us, projecting things onto us by way of what we see and by way of how we're treated in various ways. And I just take a tally of every different part of it and I just bring it to one single space where it's in a conversation like this. And I'm telling you, it's too much of it. And I just say we gotta work against those wants. That American dream that we're coursed toward, it's exclusive, man. And where there's exclusivity, there could be the presence of imbalance. And we should want balance for a multitude of reasons, man. And that's what I try to talk about all the time. In some way, shape, or form, it's trying to find that balance, whether it be against antagonists that come against you in various ways, or keeping a position of praise to a God above, if you believe in such a thing, or, loving yourself so you can stay on your side as it pertains to the things that you work with in regards to a group setting. If you're not on your own team, how can you help a team? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Being on your own side. And these are the type of things we talk about. Surrounding yourself with the right people, reading energy properly, because these things, if you're oblivious to these type of wisdoms, that's where you're caught in a trap with that entity that takes advantage of all those things, that exploits you, that looks into your mind, tries to get into those spaces where your ego lies and tries to coerce your behavior by way of that ego. Watch it happen to basketball players. Shoot the ball. And if you're not attached to that ego to the point where you're ready to do whatever it takes to fight the antagonist, then the only thing you're going to do is whatever it takes to make those fans feel uncomfortable after they've done that. That's what greatness is driven by. And we talk about these various different things, and I know that flaws literal flaws that the human condition goes against has to do with fighting these various battles throughout the day and throughout your life. It's parallel to another thing too when we talk about being intelligent enough to survive being stopped by the police if you're a young black person. I don't see a difference in the parallels because you have to be so intelligent to be able to ward off all of these things in order to find the excellence you're looking for. It's almost no different. You have to be intelligent enough to do exactly what's necessary to be able to survive those circumstances so that they don't have anything they can use against you to apply it, take your life. This may be sad to a lot of people listening to me, like, why would you take it to such a dark place? No, this is real. I'm a black person. This is real. You feel me? It's no different than what I have to do to shoot a basketball. It's no different. I want to normalize perspectives. What's tragic to you is real to somebody else. And we lose that when we start thinking about these prisoners as well. It's like, okay, well, yeah, a gun for me means I'm a maniac if I'm going outside looking to shoot somebody who looks like me. But for some people, it's like, well, nah, that's a different world. Can we normalize understanding that there's context lacking? And maybe we might not be best for finding that context. Remember, as we speak of information that maybe ain't going to come to us for many generations, some things we just have to learn to live without, some things we're better for not having. Desensitizes us so much truth, turn you into a raging fool. Sometimes you just got to learn to submit to an understand greater than yourself, because there's always something that you don't know. See what I'm saying? Look at all these different parallels, the same different things, same thing, because it's all the human condition. We're all confined within the lives that we're here to live. So we keep going through the same stuff over and over again. That's why it's easy to see. Because even though we're living different lives, it's still the same thing. And that's where we all meet. You know, I look around, I say we're all, at the end of the day, flesh and blood, bone and meat. So as we continue to watch people run into different walls or go through spiritual journeys or apply faith, and I'm thinking about what the faith I have to apply right now in the various situations I got to deal with in my personal life, and I'm realizing what's keeping me going. Well, the stories of other people's testimony, hearing that they applied their faith a certain way and it worked. They went through it, told me about it by some way, shape, or form, and now I'm going through something that's making me apply that faith. If not for their experiences and them going through it or having that testimony, the truth of what it is, how would I know? If it wasn't for that person that's saying, yo, this is what I went through, and this is how you stop doing, or this is how you get out of it, or this is how I turned it around. How else would I know how I could do it myself? These testimonies help, man. So if we're in a space of culture where we can't learn the truth, some truths we can't live with, but some people need that truth. It's just the same. Can we find a way to customize our pain for those who can handle it versus those who can't? I'm not saying we're there yet. I'm just saying. Same thing I say about education. Can we not customize every curriculum for the specific nature of the child themselves? We all have strengths and weaknesses. I'm not saying we're there yet. I'm just saying it's where we need to go. Can we normalize different diets? Better diet. Find a way so that our taste buds can get along with the stuff that makes us healthy. And from there, can it be affordable? I would love to see literally no more commercials of kids sitting in squalor with their stomachs super big because they haven't had a meal while I'm eating. That makes no sense. There is enough food. Normalize feeding people we don't know, because they need to eat. Literally, it's that simple. If you've ever been hungry, you understand why others should probably be eating. Empathy. Normalize empathy. It's okay to be empathized. Dude, I swear it's okay to empathize. It's literally fine. If you see somebody hungry, it's cool to give them a little bit of what you got. I swear, it's not going to hurt you. These are the type of things that I think can just bring about a certain compromise. Just like, all right, yeah, you're not here to harm me, so you can sit over there and mind your business. That's really all we need from one another until we figure ourselves out. It's been too much pushing up on other people's cultures and pushing up on other people's land and all this other stuff. As if we got to keep fighting over the same stuff when really it's a lot going around. It's enough for everybody, as we've discussed many times. They're rigging the stock market, free money, even though you don't know about it and we can't get to it. It's there and it's in circulation, and that's the point. It's enough. Let's build. Well, this racism, classism, sexism, all that stuff is being used against us while we're sitting there low frequency, engaging in that nonsense because our granddaddies told us maybe that's the way to go. Mine didn't, but you know what I'm saying? It's not good, man. It's not good. It was never any good for them, and they never questioned it. But we're getting smarter, are we not? We're evolving, are we not? We'd simply know better. I know what my stomach can do now. I know what the weight it can hold. I know exactly what it should be able to do at this point. I'm not caught off guard by the fact that my left side feels a little different now. My arm range is crazy different. Just in a matter of a month, I know better. So imagine what else I can learn if I start applying things that I never did. It took me 30 years to figure out something that took 2 months to master. No, man. No, the slow progress came from me not having anyone suggesting the thing based on culture that didn't care to suggest anything. That would have helped my mind become much better than what it ultimately became. If I'd had all this information when I was a child, who knows what I've been able to tell you now? This brain, the culture was in the way. It kept me from evolving. No different than these souped up NBA rules that are keeping these kids from being better defenders. See the parallels? You know I do. And I'm going to show them to you. BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.